Alright, so I got a request for a video about how to attach the mower to the hydraulic lift on this tractor. Unfortunately, the transmission is out of this right now for a rebuild, so there is no mower on the tractor. But we're going to go ahead and look at how the different attachments attach to the various lift arms, including the hydraulic lift. So we'll start here with my 1970 Chief 1200 with the hydraulic lift on it. And as you can see, as compared to a manual lift link, this lift arm is slightly different. Up top, there is an extended arm with 3 holes on it where the manual lift lever would normally come up. And that is for attaching a dozer plow or snowblower, which would normally clamp onto the lift lever of the manual lift arm. But the plate where the mowing deck and spring trip dozer would attach back there is similar. Now there were several different styles of this plate over the years. This plate happens to be actually a mid-60s style plate, even though this is a 1970s tractor. And you can see it has a slot in it, which is for float, and that's what you would use with the mowing deck, and a hole for fixed with special grading applications if you're using the spring trip plow for grading. Now over here I happen to have a lift arm from a 1970, and you can see that plate is slightly different than the plate on the tractor, but all in all it has the same function. There are also several variations of the quadrant, and this later one is half toothed and half float, and some earlier ones had teeth all the way across. But again, they all function pretty similarly. So now I'm here with a 1968 Ford 120, which is the same as the Chief 1200, and this tractor has a 42-inch mowing deck on it right now, and the newer style lift quadrant with the half float. You can see that on the quadrants with the half float, there's several holes up front that you're supposed to put a pin in like this to limit the float. That's just so the lift lever doesn't drop all the way forward while you're mowing. Behind that you can see the lift plate here, and you can see that the lift link between the deck and the lift plate is simply a piece of 1/4 by 1 flat stock steel with a pin through it. Now normally this pin up here would be spot welded onto that, but this one broke, so it's just a loose pin, which also works. And it is attached through the slot there for float. On the bottom there's another pin that goes into the X-frame on the mower, and we'll take a closer look at that on a detached mower so I can show it in more detail. So here I have an X-frame off the 42-inch mowing deck, and a close-up of the lift link here. This end down here goes into the frame of the mower, and this end up here goes into the plate on the lift lever in that float slot. So to put this into the X-frame, you can see there is a spring and a hairpin in this. And the link just slides into the X-frame through that hole in the side right there, with the spring on the inside like that, and the hairpin behind it to hold it. This end would then go up into the slot in the plate on the lift arm. Now, there is also another variation of this. Instead of having the flat lift link previously described, decks like this would have a piece of rod that's bent around this, and that would simply get pinned on there, and then the top comes up and has a J hook that hooks into the slot on the lift plate. Here's an example of the tractor with the second lift link. This happens to be a 1970 Chief 1000, and this is a homemade replica, but this is very similar to what the original link would have looked like. You can see that it's just a piece of rod with a hook bent through the slot in the lift plate, and at the bottom a loop bent around the knob on the deck with the pin holding it. This style was used mostly in the later series mowing deck, I think just 1969 and 1970. The other pin was used prior to that, and a similar setup was also used with the 36-inch mowing decks. Okay, so here's a 42-inch spring trip plow blade, and the lift link on this is pretty similar to that on the mowing deck. It's again a flat piece of steel. This one looks like maybe 3/16 by 1.5 inches. And this end here has the same pin set up as the mowing deck link would. And this one can either go in the float or in the fixed hole, depending on the operation of the plow that you desire. On this end, 2 holes are drilled, and those are to line up depending on whether you're in the float slot or the fixed hole. So finally I'm here with a 1967 Chief 800 with the dozer blade on it. This simply attaches with a 3/16 by 1.5 inch flat steel bar link. That's the same as would be used on a snowblower. The float and fixed on these is controlled at this end. You can see there's a slot for float and a hole for fixed, and the other end runs back with this flexible link and attaches to the holes in the top of the lift arm extension. This is just slightly different than the one used with the hydraulics. That one has a longer extension on it with 3 holes. This one just has a single hole. And on a manual lift lever, this flexible link would get bolted back to a clamp that just clamps around the lift arm itself. So that's a quick review on how to attach the several attachments to the various lift arms on Jacobsen tractors. I hope that answers your questions. Thanks. Have a good day.